one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chairman Quackenbush.
Present.
Legislator Diamond.
Present.
Legislator Whites.
Present.
Legislator Beniak.
Present.
Legislator Duchessi.
Here.
Legislator Wheeler. Here. Legislator Isabel. Legislator Kuchis.
Here.
Legislator Kelly.
Here.
Statement of purpose of meeting is to the discussion of potential legislation regarding support for casino development. It is a special meeting. Rules of procedure, I can allow for public comment. Before we would allow for any public comment, though, I would ask the folks from Schoharie County who are present just to introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are and go ahead with I believe you have a presentation for us, a short presentation.
Sure. I'm Ryan Moses with Howe Caverns Resort Casino.
Good afternoon. Jeffrey Hyman, Howe Caverns Resort Casino.
What I'd like to do is just go ahead and open the floor up to you folks to go ahead and, at our last meeting, the other group actually gave us a presentation, so we wanted to afford the same to you folks before we would consider any potential sponsorship of any resolution. So go ahead, feel free. If you want to come up here, if you want to stand and stay there, wherever you're at, we're good, and it's all yours. And then after, I'll open it up for public comment, anyone who...
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and greetings, and same to members of the legislature, county officials. Most of all, I think we want to convey greetings and appreciation for the privilege of being in front of you to discuss this project and this process from your neighbors to the south that have so much in common with you. Ryan has identified himself. I'd like to also identify the presence of Gene Malone from Schoharie here. We've received such tremendous and universal support from the beginning of this project, and Gene's certainly been emblematic of that. So thank you for being here as well, Gene. I'm Jeff Hyman. I head up, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, what has been and will hopefully continue to be the on-ground development efforts and financing efforts for the proposed Howe Caverns Resort Casino. The fact is that, as I stated earlier, we have a lot in common. We've been partners on a lot of things for a long time. Some that come to mind that are germane here include workforce development, and that's a big part of the criteria that's going on here for purposes of selecting the right site. But it struck me as I spent a lot of time in Schoharie in the last several months that I kept seeing these Fulton, Montgomery, Schoharie cooperative efforts when it comes to job development, and that really hit home to me as, wow, we do have a lot in common. That said, we struggle with that same lack of identity. It's funny that sometimes we're being considered part of the capital region in this casino siting process. Yet I think we both know that oftentimes it seems like the capital region is a long way away. Maybe it's not geographically, certainly economically, because our neighbors to the east have a much different paradigm than we have out here. Whether that's our struggles to kind of work around our agriculturally based economies, and in your case even more reinventing itself from the manufacturing economy. And yet, we're not always part of what's going on to the west of here that's positive as well. In Schoharie, I know we don't have a lot of trickle-down effect from nanotechnology and semiconductor manufacturing and all the other good stuff that's new carbon nano composite R&D, which is going to be the next phase of West Albany and get manufactured in Schenectady. There's a lot of crumbs that we have to try to eat, and what we're here to talk to you about this afternoon, is what we think is a truly transformative project that's for our collective benefit right at our doorstep, and which is imminent. We're going to have a different kind of presentation, I think, at least versus some of our counterparts that are pursuing gaming licenses in this region too. We're not here holding checks out. The checks will manifest themselves if we get this project for both of us. We're not here solicit a piece of paper and, try to hold it proudly up Monday afternoon at our public presentation and say, look, we got Montgomery County's support. Aren't we great? We add it to a list, and it may or may not benefit them in an enduring fashion in the future. I think I center my remarks, the meat of my remarks this afternoon around 3 questions I'd like to pose to this body, respectfully, but as directly and as succinctly as I can. The first one would have been hypothetical a few weeks ago, and unfortunately it's no longer the case. And I would have said, if you had a project that was credibly still going along at this point in your county, as you did, and for some reason you knew that you were not going to win, whatever that fact pattern that manifested itself might be, who would you want to be the winner at that point? And that's, of course, no longer a hypothetical. It's a circumstance that we're all living in today. We intend to be, again, a regionally transformative project, a catalyst for change, for jobs, for sourcing goods and services. And it's not just going to stop with a casino and a resort project on a hill just to the south. You will see in the content of our very public and plain submittal to the Siting Selection Committee and the Gaming Commission, and as has been continuously advertised and is available to you if you haven't seen it in the content of our executive summary. We're glad to supply you with copies of that, hard copies of that directly. That we intend to supply a significant amount of seed capital to a regional development fund in association with our being granted a license. And furthermore, we intend to apply a surcharge to activities on our project site so that that fund can sustain itself on an ongoing basis. We see that as a tremendous tool in cross-promoting tourism, which is going to be a centerpiece. We're not just Cooperstown and trying to glom onto it and draw from it anymore. We're Schoharie and Montgomery with our own draw. We also think that there's no reason why the magnitude of dollars filtering through that fund cannot make itself into infrastructure projects and even educational funding. That's our vision, that's our commitment. It's unwavering, and the magnitude of dollars is just a function of the breadth and depth of support we can get. The second question that I'd like to pose in the meat of my remarks this evening, this afternoon, center around this. When's the last time somebody was at your doorstep, your neighbor, with a $300 to $400+ million project, very realizable within months? 1,700 permanent jobs, 3,000 construction jobs on the way to those 1,700 permanent jobs, all realizable imminently. There is no site that is more advanced in planning and environmental approvals than ours. If we're granted a license, we'll be underway in weeks. We'll have construction workers out there, and you can bet that sourcing in construction is going to have to occur in Schoharie and Montgomery on a local basis as well. There's no other way that we could fulfill all the bidding we need for raw materials and subcontracting, certainly in Schoharie alone. And that goes to employment on an ongoing basis for construction as well. It's just, we don't have the capacity down there to service this size project when it's coming out of the ground, or service it when it's operating. The last question I'd like to put in front of you, again, respectfully but directly, is what do you want out of this process? What is your objective? We know what ours is. We want to be that incredibly transformative project, that beacon, that job generator, that sources goods and services in this local community. We have no other choice. There are a number of commitments we put in place in Schoharie County to do exactly that. I'd like to do the same with you. We've had discussions with institutions of higher education to stop the brain drain and stop the kids from having to leave this region. There's no reason that we can't enhance programs that exist here in Fulton, Montgomery, as we're intending to do in Schoharie and beyond, so that people are trained to work at our facility. We can add programs entirely if needed. This is what we want to do. This is what we need to do. We can't function without doing that. What is it that you want from this process? There's nothing that we can give you in some kind of an unseemly bidding war that's going to even come close to the impact of actually having that facility right down the road here versus somewhere else. There's nothing that we can do. There's no check that we can suppose that's not coming or may not come for another couple of years. There's nothing that can compare to having that facility right here and having you benefit from it. In closing, I guess I'd appeal to some of your good senses. Your common sense, of course, that you have, your leaders here, your sense of responsibility to your constituents, and most of all, your sense of where this area is, where our collective area is geographically and even more economically, and what its prospects are. We have a lot of latent assets here. That's kind of how we define ourselves as Schoharie County, and we're not using them correctly. We don't have an identity. If our project gets up, in year one, there'll be 1.7 million incremental visitors coming to this area every year and growing. That's something that would otherwise be hard to replicate, hard to create. Again, we want to thank you for the opportunity to come here and address you as our neighbors. Privileged to do so, and we really look forward to a partnership where the stakes couldn't be higher. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the legislators? Anyone?
Yeah. I'd love to get in first at this, to start off. Other than ourselves, who I would, of course, want first, you were always my second choice. Because one, you are a neighboring county. I was equally heartbroken with the floods and the devastation, because what happens to us happens to you. Equally, number three, I love the 3 questions. But what do I, when the last question you asked, what do I want? I would like to partner. What do I like about you is you're hungry. I love that aspect. The demographics, what do I see that's similar to us? Absolutely the demographics. I see similarities. I absolutely want to thank you for coming today. I like what you said. I want to hear what my fellow legislators have to say. This is a brand new form of government for us. I come from the old form, but I have a very fresh perspective. I was very new to the Board of Supervisors. So I am exactly what you have. I'm your market. I'm the newly educated. I have 2 degrees. You want to keep young people here. You want to keep young people in New York. And I love our form of government. I like the service to the people. So I think that the demographics that you bring, the 1,700 permanent jobs, are exactly what we need. And I want to have that as close to home as we can possibly get. So I thank my fellow legislators for being here and the opportunity to hear you. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have one specific question. You mentioned a regional development fund. Can you is there any definition on what that region is?
For the most part, yes. And you know, I'm not trying to be elusive in answering you, but it's the same problem that we both have when we try to define what our region is, and we're trying to get an identity here. And we've got Cooperstown, and we need a co-anchor, and we need to sort of build off of that. At its heart, to me, it's Schoharie, and it's Montgomery, and it's Fulton, and it's Otsego. There are other geographic areas that are in other counties that probably touch us. The distances that people travel and have to travel inherently suggest that. But one of the give you sort of the part B of the idea of the seed funding and the surcharge, which is that if it's working, we assume that others want to participate. That if tourism kicks up, then a surcharge at this facility or that facility will also want to be part of the process and want to benefit from the cross promotion. So we don't want to overly define it yet. I just gave you as best a definition and as far as probably we should be willing to go down, because we want as many that can benefit that are suffering now as possible. But it's not like we're going to kind of willy-nilly go out there and say, you know, as you get close to Binghamton, you're really part of our same plight. It may be similar, but we're not neighbors, and we have different things. You know, we're not eating the crumbs off at all, but then you get leapfrog to Utica for the SUNY IT next campus of Nanotech. They've got different problems now. But there's no reason that it can't expand as long as those outfits want to participate in the ongoing funding of the development plan. Does that make sense?
And I would just add to that I think, you know, from a regional perspective, as Jeff brought up earlier, where folks, we're in the capital region here in this sweepstakes, and then you go to the economic development and we're in the Mohawk Valley. There's no defined region. What we want to do is, with that fund, is talk to the people that are getting crumbs off both sides of those tables. That's Montgomery, that's Fulton, that's Otsego, that's Schoharie. We want to create our own region where we have these dual anchors, potentially at Howe Caverns, which is an existing destination but could grow with this, obviously, and then Cooperstown. And in the middle of those, and to the north and to the south, find we have great tourism, we have great things to market here. Let's do that. We have a strong agricultural community. Let's highlight that. Let's use that with goods and services to bring services to the casino. Let these great companies that already exist in these communities, let's work with them to provide the goods and services. Let's hire locally. Let's promote locally. Let's build locally. That's our goal. And that's what that fund will be targeted to that region.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, thank you for being here this evening. Really appreciate it. Last week when we discussed this, it was just something that came up really at the last minute, and I was anxious to just simply cast a vote because I was being asked to. And what made sense to me at the time was endorsing the project that would garner the most revenue for Montgomery County. And in the instance of the presenters last week, it was protecting an existing source of revenue, an OTB, which has been decreasing. And notwithstanding my feelings about the notion that perhaps the casino, that ship is left, I think, a long time ago. I'm not quite sure what the long-term prospects are of these casinos, and my hope that they design them for adaptive reuse at some time in the future. But all of that notwithstanding, what is the importance of our vote anyway, given the system that the state is using to select a site, whereby questions had to be in by a deadline and they're being judged by an independent panel? How does our endorsement make any difference anyway?
Fair question, and thank you. Ours is a regional thing. There's no getting around it. It's interesting you were making observations about the gaming industry. I think you were kind of suggesting it's saturated. We're seeing facilities fail in Atlantic City and the like. A right-sized, right-designed, right-capitalized gaming facility and right-located versus the alternative facility in this region can and will succeed. However, we cannot build on our site. Let's contain them inside our walls, Las Vegas Boulevard, glitz and glimmer, never see the light of day, pump oxygen in kind of facility. We have to be engaged with our outside capacity to draw people to this region. Good example is our gaming owner-operator, Michael Malik, has a facility in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. You have to drive by something like 13 gaming sites to get to his facility. 6-hour rides in some cases for populated parts of Michigan. And yet, they've continued to outperform expectations in gaming revenue and revenue at large from the site because they give people an experience. They want to get to somewhere that's not four walls and slots in a box. Ours is a regional bid in that we want to help solve problems in our economy at large, but also because we won't succeed unless we have participation and the cooperation of all of these latent assets in our area to make somebody coming to the Howe Cavern site experience something that they couldn't experience somewhere else. I mean that genuinely, and Mike can't mean it anymore as well. We'll be fodder like Las Vegas, no matter how well capitalized and how right-sized we are, if we don't give people another reason to come here. There's a lot of reasons to come here. We don't want people in those four walls all day. We want them experiencing everything you've got to offer, and not just Cooperstown. So ours is a regional bid from an economic perspective, but also because we need to use the region to our benefit to make that facility everything that it can be. I think that when all is said and done in this selection process, if it was going to be a bidding war and the highest number, we were both destined to lose anyway, right? They're going to show us big gaming revenues from inside the populated circle over there that we're outside of. We were going to win anyway. We are going to win is when we match up with everything that the governor and the legislature and the commission seem to have very genuinely pointed us in the direction of all throughout this process, which is where's the best net uptick for an entire region? What is a real destination project, not slots in a box? That's why we need your support.
I think I prefaced my question in too lengthy a manner. I'm talking specifically about the process itself of this election. What difference does an endorsement make? At this point in time, can it make a difference?
Yes.
Does it matter?
Oh yeah, the board has stated in their original criteria that they will continue to consider facts as they manifest themselves throughout the process, and even beyond the public presentations, the public hearings. Yeah, absolutely.
And John, if I could just follow up on that, we're not interested in going up and holding a piece of paper on September 8th and saying, look at all the counties we have. While it's important, the importance of this bid is that regionally we're successful and that we're taking a region that's struggling right now and helping it. So that's the importance of you signing on to our project is a good part. It's not about we have X number of counties on this date. It's about we have our partners to the north and the south, to the east and the west that want to work with us to transform this region. So that's what we're trying to do. That's why we're here today. That's why we appreciate the time that you've given us so far.
Barb?
I just think that we're stronger together than we would be apart, and having the destination resort is absolutely why I would think that this is so brilliant. One of the questions I have is North Star is a branding company out of Nashville, Tennessee, that both Montgomery and Fulton County have been working with for at least 6 months now. Have you had any communications with them at all by any chance? They're an amazing branding company that's worked.
We have not, to my knowledge, I'm not a county official, however, I'm glad you mentioned it because why not leverage in real time what's going on? So please.
I'd love to give you their card, their information, but one of the reasons I lived in Boston, I lived in New Hampshire, so I went to Howe Caverns as a kid. My son went there twice. He loves it. So it is a destination resort. So to be able to invest in a local regional area so for people can travel home and they can come back home again. That's what you want. You want to raise your family here. So I think that this is it's win-win, and government says that, but to support our neighbor is something I think is great. I thank you guys.
Alex?
Now, we haven't been privileged to actually see the details of the plans that you presented, but I know some of the numbers that were kicked around when it was being proposed for Montgomery County were projected annual gaming revenues, projected average permanent full-time annual salaries, things of that nature. And also, if I recall correctly, reading the press, there was an indoor water park which was considered part of the destination. And that's part of those 1,700 permanent full-time jobs and 3,000 construction jobs, is that water park?
Correct.
So I guess my only question is like, what are the projected gaming revenues, and what are the average annual salaries those 1,700 permanent jobs?
The average annual salary is keeping right now, but if we don't, doesn't come, we'll get it right back to you. What are called gross gaming revenues, which is revenue after the win, before you pay the tax and before you pay to operate the facility. So that's the basic metric. Some of you will probably already have been versed in that from your process here. And we're very transparent about this. For some reason, our competitors seem to redact most of their analytical work product, but it's $131 million. And I think it will be shown to be realistic, achievable, and sustainable, and impactful. To that, you would add, other revenues that are generated off the amenities at the casino, hotel element of the project. And then the way we describe it is in a together but separate manner, kind of down the hill. So you're familiar with how caverns and the slope. We would go ahead and build out a facility that would include about another 250 hotel rooms, mostly suites, an indoor water park that is going to be between 55 and 70,000 square feet, an outdoor water park that will be 1.25 acres to start, and related amenities down there as well. This was a design for how caverns for some time. They wanted to do a more expansive above ground build out of their attraction. And those of you who have maybe legislated, you were talking about going there as a kid, you go back there now, it's nothing like they've got these rope lines and the balls that roll down the hill. They've really started to build it out. The water park aspect was always going to be, hopefully, if they could find their way there, an anchor piece. Well, this is a way to realize that anchor piece. And with the other, some of you may or may not be familiar with this concept. It hasn't been around for that long. It's still in its infancy. The idea of an indoor water park resort with an outdoor aspect as well. It's been incredibly successful. It started in Wisconsin Dells. There's a big cluster there, kind of proliferated across the country. It tends to draw people from up to 3 hours or more drive for a 1 to 2 to 3 day stay, maybe a 1 to 3 day block inside of another vacation, families. The average daily rates are rather high because of the scope of amenities that you have access to. The occupancies are off the charts anytime a kid is out of school. So believe it or not, even though it's indoor, all summer, these guys kill it in the upper 90% occupancy. Vacations, weekends, and then just some shoulder seasons where it's a little slower, naturally. But it's, for whatever reason, the Northeast U.S. is incredibly devoid of this product, which is still in its infancy. And so when you look at the demographics, just the raw population, and the ability to draw from a 3.5 hour radius and totally turn the gaming magnetic models on their head, because some would say you're not going to draw that many people up here to game. We think differently, but fair enough. We've got another way to get them here, and another reason to get them here, and we think we will. You compound that with sort of the affluence factors that you tap into in that 3 or 3.5 hour radius, and we know we're going to succeed with that aspect of the project.
And that's an additional, Alexander, that's an additional 30 to, around 30 million that's within the gaming 110 acre facility.
Good point. So
it adds to that gaming number.
Yeah, the conservative estimates this is based off a feasibility study that was commissioned a number of years ago. So I may be able to tell I've worked on water parks. It's going to be about at least $23 to $24 million of top line revenue in the first year, and then it'll stabilize at about 30 and grow from there. So another 30 million of course revenues.
We can also start that. We've been approved on that. That is part of the secret process that's already happened. But that could start tomorrow.
One of the criteria, correct me if I'm wrong, that the state was really looking at was they wanted to really help an economically depressed area, or who best would be served by this. Is that correct?
Very much so.
How do we fare, how do you fare, how's this project fare when you run those numbers? Because obviously the population might not be there for us geographically we're there, but the population may not be there to where if they said, hey, it was in a larger area, there's much more population, so it's going to serve them better. How did you fare with that?
Well, ultimately, there'll be, only one arbiter of that, which is the board.
Right.
In our opinion, and this is one of the reasons that we took our hunger and ran with it, was because we believe that that's a very genuine, not just sentiment, but rule that has been established for this process. And in our region, we stack up extremely well. You know the unemployment figures out here. They're the same as ours. It's Montgomery. And we know that that belies what it really is, because the real unemployment is much higher. On a relative basis, theoretically, you're talking about a project that could wipe out unemployment in Schoharie and Montgomery when you look at the number of unemployed by person, or at least come close to it. We think that even if you water down the impact of drawing the hiring from our two counties, and figure we can only source so much from Schoharie and from Montgomery, that it should still outpace the degree to which unemployment is dented at our competitive sites by 3 or 4 times or more. So that's one metric that gives you an idea of how we stack up. And then what's a little bit more elusive is the local sourcing of goods and services. And we have an opportunity here, great opportunity, and our development team is really enthused about the prospect that this is an agricultural-based economy in many ways. What an opportunity to source product, and that there's a lot of talent from the services standpoint. Just keeping an operation like this up and running that we can also source locally. Don't need to go get somebody from downstate. So we believe that we align, we stack up exceedingly well. If those criteria are applied, we think us Davids have a darn good chance against those Goliaths.
It's difficult because we've had a partnership with OTB for, I think Duke was alluded to last week or maybe this week, for such a long time. And but I really like what I hear from your presentation. It's difficult because you have those partnerships that you had created. I saw somebody's hand fly over too.
Joe.
The question I had last meeting, we were focusing on additional revenues for OTB, not much else for the county of Montgomery. This group is bringing other sources of revenue into our county. I solely support them. I think it's a way better proposal. OTB, to me, is a thing of the past. It gets smaller and smaller every year. Just look at the facility they have at the Riverfront Center. I think basically speaking, this is a good proposal for Montgomery County. Not for OTB, for us. OTB didn't care about us. They went out and they bought the land that the casino that they were supporting last week was on, and they were going to be their landlord. Did you know that?
I didn't, but I do know that we will be getting, if that does go to them, I know the logistics of it, and we would get something. I wasn't here for the presentation, but I love doing my homework, and we would get something, so I don't know if there was anything on top of that. But I agree with Legislator Isabel, and I would love to partner with our neighbors, and I think that you gave...
Personally speaking, you bring so much more to our county than we were talking about last week. That's the way I feel. I don't know.
And yeah, I think you said that you had some packet with some more information, so anything that I could get more of, I would love to digest, but afterwards. Yes, thank you.
Okay, I had Duke, and then I saw Martin, and then I saw Ryan.
Do you mind, Martin?
No, Duke, I saw you first. Go
Just
ahead.
one quick question, Jeff. This notion about our identity, our regional identity, this bothered me for a long time, and so that really has my interest. This notion of creating a revenue stream for regional economic development, is that part of your actual application? Or?
It sure is.
It is.
Yes, we're in writing. And we'll give you some figures. We've stated up to $1 billion of seed funding. Again, depends on the magnitude and depth and breadth of some work. We see no reason why there can't be $1 million of seed funding somewhat coterminous with our being awarded a license. And we're thinking in terms of up to a 2.5% surcharge on certain activities on our project. Now, we have to be careful not to characterize that as a room tax for a variety of reasons, but there are ways you can see that particular revenue stream easily amounting to $300,000 to $500,000 in the first year and growing from there.
That's a game changer for me.
Duke, are you finished? You all set?
Thank you.
I saw Martin and then I saw Ryan.
Well, I do think we're in the perfect environment for economic growth through the education and the educational institutions that we have in this area. And, I think it's important that we provide careers, not just jobs for these people that are graduating. But something that has caused me to be reluctant to sign on to one of these projects, including our own, is that these places pride on those that we're trying to help, the most vulnerable. And putting an institution like that so close to an educational institution such as SUNY Cobblesville, how are we going to reduce, or because we can't eliminate it, but reduce the chances of those students skipping classes and blowing their whole tuition money on slot machines or something else?
Right. So this is a fair question, and it's there's a bigger debate, right, about gaming, and it probably exceeds the scope of what we can talk about here, because we're going down this path. But to try to address part of it, what you'll see in our submittal and in the state's requirements when they ask for these submittals, they're very voluminous. Was a lengthy program associated with problem gaming. You can't. Most of the employees that will be involved in the front end of gaming have to have some kind of interaction with the Gaming Commission, including various forms of licensing, and you can't pass that level at the Gaming Commission unless you manifest a certain educational process already having been successfully navigated, so that it's very vigilant when it comes to problem gaming, keeping underage people out of the gaming facility, and everything you can imagine associated with that. To the extent where the fines are so severe that most of the gaming companies and operators, including ours, Full House Resorts, usually establish like a bounty program. This is a good example where you could self-select out, or if they catch somebody that's gone too far, trying to get a market where they shouldn't, they're underage and they somehow got through security, they get a bonus. So there's a lot of programs that are more or less requirements of you even operating one of these facilities on an ongoing basis, or face fines or pulling of your license, which is under disaster. So that I don't want to say it's completely self-policing. Okay, that would be disingenuous. It is gaming, and there are problems associated with it. I think in most of the facilities that we've seen like this, they tend to be pretty manageable. As for proximity to a college, I don't know. We look at some of our counterparts, and at least one, and at least across town. I don't know if that makes a difference. I mean, I don't know how far you have to be. You've got a big higher education system up here, so I think almost no matter where you would locate a facility, you're going to be proximate enough to some institution of higher learning where a kid is away from home and maybe with a credit card, and maybe bad things could happen. But I can tell you that it doesn't make any sense for a casino to be taking college kids' money. It doesn't make a dent in their performance, and it makes them very susceptible to very stiff fines and other operating problems, so that they are genuinely vigilant.
Ryan?
I'd just like to see if anybody else would like to, any of the public would like to deliver any comments.
I was going to do that once we're done with our questions and our presentation, then I was going to open it up for public comment once we're through. Anyone else? Let's open it up to public comment. Just let us know who you are, titles, so we can, for our record.
Okay, my name is Gene Malone. I'm the supervisor from the town of Schoharie, and I am a member of the Schoharie Board of Supervisors. We have the old style government in Schoharie. And the first thing I want to do is congratulate you on your new form of government here. It takes some serious thought and recognition that change is necessary, and I'm an advocate for that. As a matter of fact, I introduced a local law this past January calling for us to have a county administrator, which is currently being looked into. I think you have to kind of take it one step at a time, because you can't jump to the legislative body without experiencing something before that. So I have my fingers crossed as far as change is concerned. Secondly, I'd like to say that I was asked by our chairman to come here this afternoon, Mr. Anthony Van Glad. He is the chairman of the board, and he sends his apologies. He had other commitments. He could not make it this afternoon, and I am basically representing the county. I've been the supervisor for 2.5 years, and I was a councilman for 4 years before that. And my sympathies go out to you. At any rate, what I would like to say, and I don't want to be redundant here, there's been so much said. I've listened to the cries for economic development and employment for quite some time now. Not only in our county, but those particular cries have been voiced through across upstate New York for a long, long time. This is a golden opportunity as far as that is concerned, economic development and employment. And I'm just going to go back to the 1,700 jobs that are being spoken of, and I guess it's safe to say that they are all going to be represented titles. That's what we were told. So that's going to give you some sense of what type of compensation will be paid in those titles that will exist in this facility. It's a golden opportunity not only for the residents of Schoharie County, but for our neighbors as well. It's going to touch your residents, without a doubt, as far as employment is concerned, as far as the attractions that will be available to your residents, and all of the surrounding communities. So, not to belabor this, I'm here today on behalf of the County Board of Supervisors and your neighbor, asking for your support in our effort to achieve this goal. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, legislators have all had the opportunity. Is there any other legislator that would like to speak? Hearing none. We do have, okay, I'm sorry.
My name is Todd Renzi. I'm with Capital TV, and I know we recently gave a presentation, but if I could, I'd just like to share some additional information we have, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Again, thank you for allowing me to give this little bit of a presentation. I'll keep it brief. There are certain components that we can't offer that I know others can. But one of the things I wanted to focus on, which is important to all of us, is the financial end of it. You folks have certainly been, you've been a partner with us since like 1975. Over that period of time, we've distributed about $6 million in OTB revenues to help support your budgets in your county. Last year, it was noted that we are sort of having some of those issues because of the increased gaming, the offshore, some of the statutory obligations that we have that are imposed upon us by the state that sort of keep whittling away at what we're able to give out. Last year we gave you folks about $50,000. With this proposal that Capital is a part of, we partnered with the Hard Rock Cafe, Hard Rock International, to come up with some sort of a way to hopefully increase revenue to our member counties and to protect the revenue that we're currently getting. Because the controller's report that came out suggested that with any new venues, wagering, diminishing revenues would be seen from capital OTB, particularly OTBs and others. That equates to probably close to 30% reduction. Now, if we're selected as the site, our projected revenue coming from from the Hard Rock Cafe, or the Hard Rock International, the projected revenues annually are $260,000. What that means to you, and we hold the land lease, partial land lease agreement, so there's an additional revenue there. But based on that, we're looking at a total projection of $665,000 a year coming to York County through LTV's participation. As you know, there's 3 other folks that are vying for the same thing. And the ranges go from about $260,000 all the way up. So there's a variance, minimum variance of about $160,000 more that you would get from continuing your partnership with OTB. So I just wanted to, bring that to your attention, Sharon. The Hard Rock Cafe is a destination. In the Hard Rock Cafe, they're going to be running the hotel. So we're hoping, and beyond that, we're going to have what we call a race book, which is a parlor, which you folks have one parlor and an easy bet. And we're hoping that those folks that come in to visit will come and wager with us in that race book. So additional revenue, which we haven't calculated. We don't know how to calculate it. And we're going to have that space. But just here to ask you to consider it. Understand your relationships throughout. Respect that. And we respect everybody's process that they've gone through, because this is an onerous type of a project for everybody. So not here to do anything more than that, but to share some of those more recent numbers. Those numbers I gave you today are numbers that actually came out of the RFA. The numbers that our President, John Signer, gave me were numbers that were the state's projections. State's projections were a little higher than what the actual folks who are doing the job say it's going to be. So just wanted to share that with you. There is that's an ongoing benefit to you, and the dollars that we offer if our project is selected is quite significant. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, thank you for your time.
Anyone?
Okay. Yeah, OTB partnership has been in existence since, say, 1975. So those revenues are statutory. Is that a percentage? How does that work?
Yeah, it's set up in a 50-50 share on after operating expenses. We get, it's based on population and handle derived within the county. So the larger counties, of course, get more and have more handle to them. But it's statutory.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, before you, you have 2 documents. One is a resolution if, there's a couple options here. Do nothing tonight, or you could support one of these resolutions. If you were to choose to support the resolution, which is blank, you would need to amend it and fill in, propose the amendment that you would like to put in there or place in there. That will call Resolution 190. It's not numbered, but that's the where we would be in our, right, Cheryl? And if the other resolution would need no amendments, that we will call Resolution 191, and that would be this resolution that has OTB listed in it. Either way, if there's the desire of this legislature to do that, either one of those would need a sponsor and a second to get it on the floor. To get either one of these on the floor. Barbara?
I'd like to motion for 190, that the Ohio Caverns, the Schoharie Casino, I'm not sure exactly what the
Once we get a second, if there is
Okay.
a second, you would fill in the amendment. All right, now you have a resolution, so
Okay.
what I hear you saying you would like to do, you would need to amend the resolution,
Amend the
now that you have a
resolution.
sponsor and a second, and the actual name would be Full House
No,
Resort,
it's How Caverns Resort and Casino.
Howe Caverns Resort and Casino, located at Howe's Caverns.
Yes, yes, sir.
And you would put that in both the top two lines and the bottom two lines. Is that your amendment?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Now, discussion on that amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Against? Abstaining? So that carries unanimously amongst those present. And now on the resolution itself as amended. Is there any further discussion?
On the fifth paragraph, I don't know if I'm comfortable with making the statement that despite local efforts to locate a casino in Montgomery County, from recent indication, it appears unlikely that a casino will be set in Montgomery County.
Oh,
Would you like to
I agree.
strike, amend to strike that entire whereas?
I'd like to move to strike that.
All right, so we have another amendment on the floor, and the amendment by Alex is to strike the entire whereas in that sentence. And Barbara, you'd like to second that?
I'll second that.
All right, so discussion on the second amendment. Any?
Yes. Yeah, just with respect to my particular vote, I'm very much interested in this whole notion of a regional economic development. We've been victimized for a long time because we are recognized really as, for depending on what the notion is, whether it's DOT in the Utica region or economic development in the capital district. I think we've been hurt for a long time. The whole new consolidated funding application, all of these things, our position and who we're competing with has been very difficult. And on its face, I think clearly the financial benefit, the immediate financial benefit, would be with OTB, but I'm more in favor of this investment in regional economic development, and I think the long-term benefit is with this resolution, and that's why I'm supporting it.
On the amendment to strike the fifth whereas, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor to strike the fifth whereas in its entirety?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? That carries unanimously. Now back to the resolution as amended. Is there any further discussion?
Just like to say, I find this to be a very difficult decision. We have a long-standing successful relationship with one of these presenters. However, time and time again in the past, I've seen Montgomery County fail to partner with our neighbors. And with this project in Schoharie County, the employment benefits to the county are undeniable. It's a resort style where they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, the gaming basket, no matter where that goes, no matter what the debate on that concludes to say. There will be other amenities there. And I think lastly, the deciding factor for me is this regional development opportunity. We are not part of the Capital District, we're not part of Central New York, we are our own region. And moving forward with this, to develop and forge an identity for this region and have that stimulus money, have that seed money is a commitment that it's an unbelievable commitment to your true view for what this development could be as regionally transformative. And I'll be supporting the amendment with those things in mind.
My one comment is Schoharie is our partner in the regional economic development. Every time we submit, they are one of our partners. The others, other than us that can get in, are not. But I agree with everything that Duke is, and Ryan have both said, and I'm going to support the resolution also. So, Alex?
I just wanted to make an observation from what Capital Regional TV has told us. The county would be receiving an additional roughly $160,000 per year That's all well and good. That would benefit the county. However, the fact that the Schoharie facility is projected to create 3,000 construction jobs, 1,700 permanent full-time equivalents. I just think that that's so much more of an economic impact than 160,000. And in addition, it affects this region. It affects directly this region, not just the, as they said, the eastern capital region.
All right, no further comment? On the resolution as amended, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Abstaining?
Wait, sorry, who?
Mark. Resolution passes. There is no other business to come before the board. I look for a motion to adjourn, and we can get over to our budget presentation. Barbara?
Yep.
Second, Frank?
I'll second.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.